In terms of, yeah, so basically, how do you build a great company and scale? And I think I've been very lucky. Except, here we go. Oh, now it works. So I guess in terms of why I say very lucky is that back in 2008, I joined this company that I hadn't heard of called Amazon. And whenever I say that, everyone was like, how could you not have heard of Amazon? But at the time, I was living in Germany, and I didn't read a lot of German books. And so I had no use of Amazon. And also, I think if you probably, many of you go back and look at when did you actually first use Amazon, I'm not sure there's many that used it in 2007. A few early adopters, but probably not a huge amount of you guys. So I joined this company and then went on this incredible journey with these guys. So when I joined Amazon, we were turning over 14 billion a year. By the time I left, we were doing 150 billion of revenue a year. But actually, if you look at it on a total transactions through the platform, in 2008, we were doing about 14 billion through the platform. By the time I left, we were doing about $250 million. Sorry, 250 billion through the platform. So incredible scale and incredible journey. And Amazon, I think, is a great case study because you just don't realize how efficient they've been in terms of their process and how they've been very thoughtful about how to scale an organization and build an organization at scale. And then I left there and wanted to play a little bit. I went to Groupon. Also a phenomenal success story if you take the entire time of where they've got to. Building a multi-billion company in essentially a 5-6 year period. Albeit a success story that's kind of wavered through great success out the gate and then slowly struggled. And a lot of lessons learned from why they've struggled and why I think they've struggled. Especially on the background of what I saw at Amazon. Hence why I didn't stay at Groupon very long, by the way. All of 16 weeks. Although LinkedIn will say it's 6 months, but there you go. And then I joined Deliveroo, I joined Deliveroo early in 2016. Business was turning over about 15 million at the time. It's significantly larger now, and kind of help shape that company through a very, very high growth phase. And so going through multiple funding rounds and just really trying to help the organization in terms of leadership. Very, very different to Amazon, which was more established and a better process in place. Although Amazon was still very, very basic at the point when I joined. So I've been very, very lucky for those 3 companies. Since then, I've given up full-time work. And so I started my own company, which I spend 2 days a week on. And then I help early-stage companies growing. So I spend a lot of time advising very early-stage companies and about a lot of this kind of stuff and raising money, all that kind of fun stuff. So what did I learn? It's all about leadership. In the end, it's all about leadership. And I think so many people think it's technical, it's about the skills and the technical skills. I think, yes, that's important. But if you don't have the right leadership in place, then you're screwed. And I can't imagine how many people go home every night and complain about the organization they work in. It's not because you're not skilled, it's because you can't be effective. And that's a leadership problem. Leadership is getting in your way. So it's really about the right people. It's about then the right culture. You can have all the right people. If the culture's wrong, you will not succeed. Culture, culture, culture. And then it's about process and structure. Because you can design all this stuff, but if you don't have the process and structure in place, it doesn't matter. Because you've got no mechanism to make sure it's working and it's happening. So before I move on to the next slide, and by the way, there's lots of icons in here, lots of stuff, and I could talk about each point in a lot of detail. But when I go about Amazon, my first week at Amazon, I'm sitting in Germany. We've just done our weekly metrics review. How many people do weekly metrics review, by the way? How many people sit in this? Only one. Wow. Nobody looks at the details of your business on any frequency. Weekly. So at Amazon, I sat down in our weekly business review. And bear in mind that the guy who's running this worked for Jeff. And he would do 7 of these every single week. 7 hours a week was just doing metrics reviews of a guy whose boss was Jeff, right? And he did this for the entire 18 years he was there. And this is a 150-page document that we go through with all the metrics and how we're running the business. So my first meeting, I sit down, I'm a finance guy, just joining, super proud, Ralph, the MD, he joined Amazon back in '99. He said, what do you think of this meeting? And I gave him all the great reasons of why this meeting was wonderful, how the metrics didn't quite play out, how I think I could improve it, who wasn't quite on the business, who wasn't. I was super proud of myself. And myself and Ralph were in the lift, and he turned and said, yeah, you missed the whole point. So we're like, that was a brilliant summary, right? It's like, no, you missed the whole point. There's two reasons why we do these meetings. Firstly, it's to make sure people are on the details of the business. They have their nose in the details of the business. They're not on planes, not flying around. They know the numbers. They know the metrics. So that's a process to audit frequently. Stay in the details of your business, know what's going on. Be able to answer 5 whys deep in your organization. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Get 5 whys deep. Really be on the details, know what's happening. And I think most organizations, people get away with bullshit. What happened last week? Oh, it's a sales mix. Cool, really? Can you actually show me the math that proves that? Like, probably not, right? A lot of people get away with excuses. So that's the first reason. The second reason is culture. It's all about what is it to work here and the behaviors. It's a teaching moment. 1 hour a week was dedicated to teach people about culture, about behaviors, and audit what they're doing. That was the only reason for doing it. And the most senior leaders invested an hour a week for each business they ran just to do this. And that was not the only meeting they did it. So actively managing culture. And so come on to kind of, where did some of this Amazon stuff come from? And I'll give a lot of Amazon examples, and I can talk about non-Amazon as well. But so there's a guy called Jim Collins who did a lot of research about great companies, not good companies. If you guys haven't read it, I suggest you do. Jim helped Jeff design Amazon. So Jeff read the book and said, this is brilliant. And Jim helped Jeff when he was designing the company. And so a lot of the way Amazon works is actually based on these principles in this book. And so what was great is Jeff used to give everybody this book when they joined. So it was the first start of what does it mean to work here. And it was based on data and analysis of 15 years of how companies became great. So the reality is, the common thread is, it's about discipline. Disciplined people getting the right people. That's actually the easy part. Getting the right people is generally the easy part. The key thing is then focusing them on excellence. Keeping them focused. Having the right people, but people like to be distracted by shiny objects. Keeping people focused. What do you need them to do? Play to their strengths. So that's the first thing. Keep them disciplined on things that really matter. Then, disciplined thought. Being honest about the facts and avoid getting sidetracked. And again, I come back to, how many times will people tell you something that's just not true, or won't tell you the things that are true, but they don't think you can hear them? And that is the worst thing, right? It's like, there's some great stuff from Gladwell that talks about why planes crash. And sorry if anybody's taking a plane, by the way, but it's a really interesting analysis about why planes crash. And a lot of it's about communication and honesty, and cultural differences. And so being able to say, we're driving off a cliff if we don't do something different. And so many people are in businesses where they know something's going to go wrong, and they don't say stop. And then they say, well, I told you so, or I knew this was going to happen. If you knew it was going to happen and it still happened, then you're not responsible. And you shouldn't have been here in the first place. You don't deserve this job because you let the company fail. And so getting that culture where you get people very, very honest is so important. But you have to create a culture that can do that. Disciplined action. Understand what's important to achieve and what isn't important. Do you know what's important to your organization? And we'll come on to a hedgehog concept. If you guys haven't seen it, we'll touch on that. So I think all this is great, but what you then start with is a level 5 leader. And I'm already 10 minutes in, so I'm going to accelerate, by the way, because I get in trouble. But the first thing is Amazon was filled with these kind of guys. And one of my favorite guys is a guy called Greg Greeley. So Greg Greeley, who I'm sure everyone's heard of Jeff Bezos, but if you actually start talking about Amazon's organization, there's so many people who you should have heard of and you never have. And that's because they're all level 5 leaders. These are guys who have earned multiple hundreds of millions by working at Amazon for 20 years, and they still go up at 7 o'clock to turn up in the metrics review. And you've never heard of them. They don't have ego. These are not high ego guys. They put the company before themselves, right? And they're super modest about what they can and can't do. They're super humble guys. So I love Jeff Wilke, who now runs Amazon's entire consumer business. You see Jeff in a meeting, he runs it, he owns it. You say hi to Jeff when he's walking past you, he puts his head down and doesn't want to be seen. Yeah, he's a brilliant guy, but so humble. But then when he's on the business, he's on the business. So they're ambitious for the company more than they're ambitious for themselves. They put the company first. And I think, I don't know how many of you guys can say you have that type of person in your organization, but if you don't, probably you're going to fail. The other important thought is that they don't know all the answers. So sitting in a meeting with Bezos, he actually is the last person to speak. I guarantee most of you sit in companies where the person who speaks first and speaks the most in the meeting is the most senior person. Then why are they hiring smart people? Clearly they know the answer. What you really want to do is actually just summarize. That makes you the smartest guy in the room. Because by the end of the meeting, you've got more information, and then you can take it all and say, now how do I make a decision? If you know the answer, don't have the meeting. Just tell people what to do. You're running a dictatorship. Do this, do that. So listening is way more important than talking. Probably why I'm talking and not listening. Because, yeah. And then build successes, right? So what you're trying to do is get people that can succeed. So again, one of the things we'd always talk about with Amazon is hire people smarter than you. Firstly, they'll make your life easier. Hiring smart people is really hard because they'll challenge you. But then who wants an easy job? I'd rather have a job that's hard because the people are challenging me for the right things than I'm challenged by the fact that I'm actually trying to motivate people to actually do their job. Or I'm trying to tell them how to do it. I see this a lot where people are so scared about losing their job that they hire people that could never do it. And then they're surprised they fail. Right? Hire really good people. Hire people better than you and challenge yourself to actually keep them. Way more enjoyable. Way more fun. And especially in the early stages, companies or departments, people are, I'll hire people and train them. Right? Is that the best use of your time? Like, is that really the best use of your time? Why not hire really good people, let them run on the stuff that actually you're really good at because you know you don't need to monitor them, and then focus on the stuff you're not good at. Spend your time on that. So when I joined Delivery, the first thing I did is hire a guy who actually could do all of the stuff I could do. Because I was like, great, I know he can do it. He can actually do it better than me. And if I spend my time doing that, I'm not doing my job, because my job's way broader. So that was my first hire. He can do that. I can focus on all the other stuff that I'm actually not very good at. And then I'll figure out how to do it, and then I'll hire people who can do it and do it way better than me. And so I scaled the team very quickly. So I think I was hiring about a person a week into my finance team. So we went from 12 people when I joined to 84 people over 17 months. And hiring really senior leaders, of which two of them have since left and are now doing CFO jobs themselves, which is super proud. And talk about successes. These guys could all take my job at some point. And then you build bench strength, and then you can start doing way more for the organization. Share praise. Don't share blame. If you're the leader, it's your job to make sure that your team's protected. You're successful because of the people you have on your team. You fail because of your leadership. If you're failing, and the people on your team are failing, either you haven't helped your people, or they're the wrong people. It's your job as a leader to find out which one it is and then fix it. So blame, you have to own blame yourself. And many, many people don't do this. And then just low ego. I touched on it earlier. And then the other part is they come from within the organization. So, and I think it'll come up later, but one of the things Amazon was really good at is you take a big leader, a guy who's running a large part of your business, maybe the biggest part of your business. And then what happens is you put them on a complete new project. And they're the first hire. And they have no team. They have no EA. They have no budget. They write the business plan themselves. And I don't know how many companies would take what they deem as their A players. They're too important to take off this big part of the organization. Actually, that's where most companies fail. They're too important not to, because these are the guys that you want building your next business, not running something that you know how to do. So one of the things that you see over many, many years at Amazon is, when I joined, one of the most important jobs you could have was running the media category. This was where all the VPs were. And then during my 8 years there, that VP job, that big books role, moved down to being only a director level job, because Amazon knows how to do it. It's a playbook, right? This is how you run a media category. You don't need your best people doing that business. Still a huge part of the company use business, but they took the best people and put them into really exciting stuff, like put Jassy into building web services, put Kessel into building Kindle. These guys were big leaders before they did those jobs. And so you move people around into new exciting stuff. And that keeps them engaged and actually helps them grow really big parts of your business. So that's level 5 leadership, and Amazon has a bunch of them. Who, not what. So again, we've probably all heard this. Don't just hire for the sake of hiring. Keep looking until you find the great people. In my first year at Amazon, I had to make one hire into my finance team in Germany. It took me 12 months. It took me 12 months to find that person. 2 issues. One is that the leveling in Germany was out of whack with the rest of the company. Again, I talk about immature processes. We had MBAs joining as level 5s in our organization, whereas every other country they joined as level 6s. And so when I benchmarked my team, it was like, yes, they're under-leveled, but I can't bring people in at a more senior level unless I increase the entire level of the team. So I took that battle to the company and changed the leveling system for Germany, which was really hard because I had to hire the right people, but I had to battle the whole company about we're going to pay people more money and level up the entire organization in that place. That was a real hard battle, but we got through it. But it took me a year to get through that process, and I couldn't hire people otherwise because I couldn't bring the people in externally at a more senior level than the guys already had. And so that meant I just had to work smarter. So that's all I had to do to get through it. But you hire great people, and if you don't find them, wait. Because then they hire bad people, and then those people hire bad people, and then you sit there with a long period of having to change a lot of the organization. I've only 4 minutes left, by the way. So when you know you need to make a change, act quickly. One of the companies I advised, guy used to run my BI team at Amazon, he started his own company, building it. He fired his sales guy yesterday, and he called me and said, hey, I've just gone through, it's been a few tough days. It wasn't working out. He was doing enterprise sales. I knew something was up. Didn't think we'd land his account, so I dived into it, got involved, and yes, it was basically bullshit, and we lost the account, and I knew, and so we've agreed to part ways. And on the back of that, he's also decided to change the entire business model. And we had a great conversation. So how do you feel? It's like, I feel so good, but it's been really hard. Get rid of your people that are dragging you down. That person was driving him insane because he was worried about what he was doing. He didn't trust him. He was also then supporting a business model that he fundamentally knew probably wasn't the right one. And as soon as he got rid of the guy, he had freedom to say, you know what, I'm going to change this entire business. And he just called me for like a bit of support on this, but he's like, he's done the right thing, right? And he's acted fast. As soon as he lost, the guy's gone. So many companies hold on to people for the wrong reasons. So don't do it. Get rid of them. They're dragging you down. It'll free up your headspace to do differently. And then I mentioned it, put your best people on your biggest opportunities, not the biggest budget. Confront the brutal facts. And I'll summarize this one, but basically is, I said earlier, start with the right, ask questions. If you're speaking, you already know the answer. That's a high ego state. That's not a level 5 leader. A level 5 leader is say, I don't know all the answers, talk to me, educate me. I want to learn, I want to make a great decision. No, I know what's best, I'm going to go and do it, right? And be brutal. If you're going off a cliff, say, guys, we're going off a cliff. And then if your company doesn't let you do that, you've got to take a step and say, why? What am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of telling the truth? Is it about me? Is it the organization? What would happen if I did? And if you fear for your job, you probably don't want to work there anyway. If you're that worried about your job because you tell the truth, is that really where you want to be? If that was a relationship, is that the relationship you'd want to be in? That's what a job is. It's a relationship. And if you can't say, hey, honey, I don't like the way you cook those peas, right? Really? So you've got to be able to say, there's something wrong here, and I'm going to tell you. And if then it's like, well, if you don't like the way I cook my peas, then I think we're over. If that's the whole thread of your relationship, probably shouldn't be in it. So confront the brutal facts. The autopsy without blame. This is one which is really important. Get into the details, figure out what went wrong, because you're trying to understand it, not because you're trying to blame people. And if they feel like they can't answer those questions, it's probably a cultural problem. You've got to fix that. Or it could be an individual problem, not a cultural one, in which case you also got to fix that. And then build mechanisms to see what's going wrong in your organization. That's the metrics review. Where are the red flags? What's the issue in the organization? How do I know what's happening 1,000 miles away in a team that I manage without actually being there? If you don't know how to find that out, build those processes, those structures. Figure out a way to get visibility of things you can't see. Because if you can't, then anything can happen in the organization, and you're out of control. Discipline. Hedgehog concept, this is really important. There's only 3 pieces, and the important part is where they overlap. And I think most people get this wrong because they get excited about stuff that doesn't matter. So I would start is, what are you passionate about as a company? What do you really care about as a company, or as a team, or as an individual? What do you really care about? What can you be the best at the world at? Why spend your time on something that you can't be the best at? Right? It's like, why put the energy into it? If you can't be the best, don't do it. If you believe you can be the best, do it and really go for it, especially if you care about it. If you've got those 2, you're in a good place. And then the last one is, what drives the economics of your organization? So I go back to my conversation with Pete, the guy who changed his business. He was like, I'm putting all of my eggs in one basket. And like with this enterprise business and enterprise sales, it's like when actually he's got a great self-service product that can drive the economics of business. He's passionate about that because it can scale. And actually, he can be world-class at it because I know, because I built the product with him a long time ago. So that's his hedgehog concept. And now he's got that, he can just drive all his resources and plow them into this. So find out what your hedgehog concept is, and then put your resources behind it. Cultural discipline, give people freedom. Hire smart people, let them get on with it. But what you need to do is build a framework. So one of the things we would do with Amazon is we build tenants, pricing tenants. How do we price? How do we set pricing? There's a rule set about how you price. It's not, hey, price 0.99. Who cares? What it is basically, if you don't know how to price it, err on the side of caution, and therefore for the benefit of the customer. And the best example of that is when when we were running the UK media business, everyone got excited, free shipping. It wasn't Amazon that started free shipping. Everyone else was like, we're going to do free shipping. Economics had messed up. Amazon just said, well, we'll follow. We're going to follow you. Then all these companies just ran out of money, and the business failed in the UK. We're sitting in a meeting saying, now that there's no competitors, how do we price music? How do we price it, right? And DVDs. And the answer was really simple. Well, we know how much margin we made when we had competitors, and therefore that's the fair price for the product. So we just make the same margin, because that's what the price is, right? That's the market price. Most companies would say, hey, great, there's no competitors, let's whack the price and make a whole bunch of money. Say, no, that's the competitive price. The market said that's the price. We're going to hold the price, and therefore we know the margin. Very, very different. But that's where we have a framework of how do you operate, so you don't have to be involved in every decision. You free up your time and give people frameworks to make decisions. You give them guidelines. And then if they step out the guidelines, maybe it's because your guidelines need updating, or maybe it's because your guidelines or maybe it's because that person doesn't want to follow them. That's a different problem. But give people guidelines to help them make decisions. Your job as a leader is not to make every decision. Your job is to enable people to make good decisions. Give them frameworks. Protect them. That's your job. Get the right people on board. We touched on it. Strong culture, not a dictatorship. Same kind of principle. My co-founder is really bad at this because he used to be a consultant, and all he's good at managing timelines. I'm doing a lot of education with him on this kind of stuff. He likes to manage people to task and timeline, as opposed to what's the overall principle. And then create a stop doing list. Stay focused. What are you going to be world-class at? Do that. What drives your economic engine? Do that. Don't do all the other stuff around it, which is, yeah, super exciting, but not important. Put your resources into things that matter. So, a bunch of questions, and then I think I'm 3 minutes over. First one is, like, are you a driven organization? Do you want to win a gold medal? Do you want to just take part or set a world record? And I think when you think about you, your team, your organization, are you just turning up to the gym every day because that's what you do, and you read a book while you're cycling or on the treadmill and you listen to music and you're not really pushing yourself? Or you say, you know what, like, I've got 10 minutes and these are going to be the best 10 minutes, I'm going to drive it because I want to win, not just take part. Are you really focused on being a winning organization? Are you going to be the best at what you do? And if not, it's just a job. And if your organization's thinking like that, you're probably not working with the best people. They're just turning up with a paycheck. And somebody else one day is going to say, you know what, there's a better paycheck, I'll go there. Are you in a place where you're working with the best people, doing the best thing, doing the best work? And by the way, you don't have to be. You can say, you know what, I'm okay, I just want a paycheck, it's cool. That's fine, I want to be on the treadmill every day, the rest of my life, an hour a day, listen to music. Or I want to get in there, get something done, and then get out and get on with my life. And really push myself at all the things I do. Do you end up taking blame when things go wrong? How many people take the blame? They walk into me and say, guess what, guys? Yeah, it's my responsibility, I screwed up. That was one of my happiest moments when I turned up at Amazon. When at most of the companies I work for, by the way, there's a lot of people, it's great because the world has definitely changed from when I was in corporate life 18 months ago. Most companies that I've been in, you'd walk into a meeting and everyone was like, man, that was a great meeting, I didn't get any actions. And why did you go? If you didn't take anything out of the meeting, then you just wasted your time. If you walk in and say, what am I going to take out of this meeting? What do I own? And that was my favorite moment in Germany back in 2008 when I walked in. And I even commented and say, man, that's the first meeting I've ever been in my life where when somebody said, hey, I'll own it, it's me. Because people aren't afraid to take risks because the culture supports failure. You don't take pleasure in people failing, but you allow them to. You don't force them to. And when they fail, they say, yeah, I screwed up, but at least I tried. What did you learn when you tried? Well, I learned all this. OK, cool. So don't do that again, but let's try something different. How can we help you? How can we resolve this? So again, take ownership when things go wrong. Don't blame people. Blame cultures stop people taking risks. Smart people in a blame culture are a waste of money. Right? So don't do it. Do you have the right people? Spending time on what they're good at, on the right things. Right people, great. Right people, wrong stuff, waste of time. Wrong people, right stuff, also a waste of time. Align those two things. Yeah, do you voice your opinions? You sit in a meeting and think things and go, especially as finance people, we think a lot and introverted and don't say a lot. And then we go, man, it was a great meeting. You forget that you didn't use your mouth. Right? So have to say more things. Say what's on your minds. Express your opinion. Share the concerns. Push for resolution. Force people into that space saying, what is going on? You'll find it so much more rewarding. If people don't like it, yeah, cool. Yeah, it's not your problem. You've said it. Yeah, I mean, be tactful about saying it. Don't be rude. Yeah, and then are you a listening organization, or do people just go in there? I can't wait for your next meetings. If you want to email me your next meeting, just write down who's the most senior person in the room, and just monitor how much time they spent speaking. How much time have they spent speaking and listening? And I would love a poll of that, right? That'd be great. I don't know if we can set that up, but it'd be great. Yeah, no, I'm over. Anyway, you can read the rest, but think about it. I think we can share these if you guys want to share them, but ask yourself these questions and just have fun. Good luck.